Tell us where you are and what the latest is.
Well, I'm in that area, if you're familiar with this area, of where West Broadway and Hudson come together right at Chambers. That would put us about a block and a half away from the site of where the explosion was. That area has just been evacuated because police have found what they describe as a suspicious device, and they fear that it might be something that could lead to another explosion. Obviously, there's a real sense of caution here on the part of police. I spoke with some police officials moments ago, Chris, and they told me that they have reason to believe that one of the explosions at the World Trade Center, aside from the ones that may have been caused by the impact of the plane with the building, may have been caused by a van that was parked in the building that may have had some type of explosive device in it. So their fear is that there may have been explosive device planted either in the building or in the adjacent area, and that's why they're being so cautious in this vicinity right now.
Off of Reuters, it's saying that I guess an Arab journalist who has access to bin Laden interviewed him 3 weeks ago, and he warned of an unprecedented attack on the U.S. interest for support of Israel. And
right. There you go.
Yeah. But I thought,
that's enough for me.
And they said earlier that he's saying had nothing to do with it.
Oh,
well,
you think he's a brave man, Tom?
No, clearly not.
But this is a journalist who claims he interviewed him 3 weeks ago. It's off of Reuters.
Pat, hi, you're on the air.
You know what? Honestly, guys like bin Laden say this all the time, and it doesn't necessarily ever come to fruition.
Yeah, but the point is, I'm crediting him with this attack.
No, totally. You know he did this.
Yeah, Pat, go ahead.
This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to set up several field forces to go into command centers. Some of them have been set up, but it's really still preliminary. This is why it's so difficult for them in this area where we are. Imagine they came here originally to deal with the crisis. They set up some command centers, and they had many of their chiefs and many of their supervisors in the area of the building. The second and third explosions literally have wreaked havoc on those field forces and those command centers, so they've had to back up, and now they're trying to see how they can approach it again. They are enlisting the support of doctors in this area. One, a medical conference that happened to be down the street in Manhattan. Surgeons from all over the country that happened to be here in New York City. They've gone to the hotel, put them on a bus, and they've just brought them into this area, and they're going to be assisting in this triage unit that they're hoping to set up. We're still not sure that they've actually been able to set it up, but to be perfectly honest with you, Chris, it appears to us, looking at it here firsthand, that officers and rescue officials are really having an uphill time trying to figure out exactly how they're going to attack this problem.
Yeah, hi, Howard. I was doing work on a rooftop in Jersey City, and we didn't see the first crash, but we saw the smoke, and as we were watching, I saw a plane coming in from about 3 or 4 miles out.
Wow.
And I had commented to the other guys on the roof, I'm sorry, but I commented to the other guys on the roof, and I said to them, hey, look at this plane, coming in pretty close, too. And I just said, oh, my God. I said, it's going to hit it. And as I said it, it just hit it. It hit the second tower.
Well, you're never going to get that image out of your head.
And it was, when it hit, you saw the fireball go past it.
Awful. And it's just awful. And it's just ridiculous.
We've been too lenient with these people for way too long.
We have. That is the truth.
And that's the problem. You look at it our own backyard.
I've been in radio 20 years. I've been screaming about that the chickens were going to come home to roost. And
you look in your own backyard, what we do to our own people, and we just smack them on the wrist. These people don't even belong here.
No.
And we let them get away with it.
Everybody, our society has become too lenient.
But we've also ceased to be amazed that people will actually launch an attack in which they know they will be killed.
Yep, Elizabeth.
That is not amazing to us anymore.
Yeah, we have to just level them all out. Elizabeth, you're on the air.
Yes, I happen to be thanking my blessings right now in my grandparents' house. I was in my office when I saw this flying balls of fire and debris after a hard crash. I worked in 2 World Trade Center.
You were in the World Trade Center?
Yes, in the 2 World Trade on the 35th floor.
Well, you were on the 35th floor, and what happened when the plane hit? How did you get out?
When the plane hit, it hit one, but we thought it was something. It was another building. We never had an idea that it was the World Trade Center. We only saw flying debris, glass, and balls of fire hitting our offices. At that point, we were told to go to the lobby, like for a fire drill, to evacuate the building. I was fortunate, for whatever given reason, somebody dragged me into the freight elevator, what happens to be right there at that moment. when we got in the freight elevator,
Yeah.
the
Wow.
mechanic told the guy operating it, hurry up and push the down button because this elevator is going to stop the minute there's a fire in here.
Wow. And you
I'm
were,
watching the floors coming down, 35, 34, until we made it to 1. I said, thank God. Opened the door. I ran out to the concourse, the World Trade Center concourse, and all I see was mobs of people running, and the cops telling us to be cautious, but go ahead and run out of the building. I kept on running out of VC Street all the way up to Chambers Street.
good for you.
And then because when I got to Chambers Street, good thing I work out. I'm very healthy in terms
Right,
of
you were
running.
able to run.
I know. I heard a boom, and when I turned around, I said, "Oh my God, there's my tower." That was 2 World Trade.
Oh, my God.
That got hit. At which point,
How
now
many? Let me ask you something. How many people were at work on your floor?
let me tell you another thing. My floor, my co-workers are the actual victims of the first bombing. They were in B1 level when the actual bombing happened back in the 90s.
So when you say you got out, there was a lot of people still on the floor,
There
right?
was a lot of people because there was one space in the freight elevator. I don't know who pulled me in there. And usually the elevators stop because if there's a fire, they automatically stop.
Well, you are real lucky.
You have no idea. I have no idea how lucky I really
Oh, my
am.
God. What was your job at the World Trade Center?
I was actually the signs and the coordinator for all the signs and all the directories of the World Trade Center.
I see.
I work for the Port
the
Authority.
building.
You work for the building, the World
For
Trade
the Port
Center.
Authority.
Right. Oh, my God. You are so lucky.
Quick update on the plane crash here in our area. It was United 757. We don't know how many people are on board. We have to assume the worst given the pictures we've seen there and the accounts of the scene of a crater in the ground and very, very little in the way of debris. Rick Earl just telling us that the largest piece they found is about 5 feet long. There is again shots of New York as the unbelievably.
That's the second tower, the first tower that was hit first collapsing, but the second one to collapse.
And the Pittsburgh incident that they were describing, United Airlines Flight 93, a 757.
I'm devastated. The towers are gone.
Everything's
I'm
gone.
going to know what happens tomorrow.
Well, there's got to be retribution. Not even retribution. For self-preservation, we must attack.
I tell you, this is ridiculous.
And I said it at 9 o'clock in the morning when I first saw the news. I said, now it is their excuse. Now you finally have been pushed.
I mean, really.
Now let's not
I would
stop.
love to know what they're saying in Europe now. All the people who always
The
say,
rest of the world, the rest of the world is laughing
How
at
about
us.
I
The
don't
rest
even
of the
care.
world.
I don't even care what Europe's saying. I'm saying now we have to make a decision.
Yes, we do. Yes,
We know the countries that harbor terrorists. Don't wait to even find out who
Why
is
even let them into
responsible.
this country? Why we should
Right.
stop letting people in already?
It's enough immigration. We got too many people here.
The mayor says he arrived at the World Trade Center building just moments after the first blast and witnessed people jumping from the windows to their deaths.
Oh.
Wow. Imagine jumping out of the World Trade Center.
No, and there's no way of surviving that.
Well, we're going to go now. There's not much more to be said. You guys can tune to TV and radio and everything else, and I'm just devastated by this.
We'll be doing what you're doing.
Yep, we'll all be sitting around waiting to hear what goes on. And you know, this is a great day in the Arab lands. This is they're cheering for us.
Let it be the start of the worst moment of their lives.
Yeah, let this be the day that we woke up. Please.
You know, much like when the Japanese had struck their blow against the United States, it was just the beginning of the end.
It was the end of it was the beginning of their nightmare.
Hope this is the beginning of the end.
I think this is the wake-up call. Unfortunately, it's an unfortunate wake-up call, but it's here. I guess we were never
because
really.
the world has been plagued with this long enough. Obviously.
Let's free the world of terrorists. Yeah. It's time to do it now. It's going to take about a month to really nuclear attack them and do it in a devastating way where they don't live, so that maybe only a roach will live in these Arab lands.
All right. Rick, I held up the Redmond Hart Commission that said we were going to get attacked like this. We were a sitting duck for a terrorist attack. It would hit hard and it would hit soon. Where did we fail?
I don't think that we necessarily did fail. This is a very free nation. There's no nation in the world where you can travel about and do the things that you do in the United States.
Why did...
Today is the day that we must wake up. I don't think I'm being irresponsible by saying
Absolutely not. If this doesn't wake us up, this is affecting our way of life. They want to take our way of life away from us.
As we sit here now, we don't even know who is alive and who is dead in our personal lives. We don't, especially those of us who live here in Manhattan.
And just imagine if we capitulate, how our lives will be affected from now on.
I'll leave you with this. The military is at full threat level, and we'll see what happens. And
that doesn't mean we're attacking anybody.
No, just means that we're on full alert, which means nothing.
Like we're waiting for another blow.
Yeah,
we might
sitting
catch
ducks.
it.
How happy were you yesterday now, looking back?
What does that mean?
Meaning just, you don't...
You were carefree.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and we shouldn't have been.
Because today was coming.
For 20 years, I've been on the radio saying this. And I'm not saying...
I remember you saying this when we first started working together, and I was like, shh.
Yeah. And
stop it.
I know. And I've been saying it. I said the chickens will come home to roost. It's going to happen. And we should really wipe out terrorism now. But we were afraid of what France will say.
The intelligence community regularly gets all types of information regarding potential threats. There is, however, a chasm between freedom of speech, where people talk about doing things, and the actual acts themselves. And it's frequently impossible to discern whether someone is merely talking or, in fact, is planning to do some sort of terrorist event. I suspect that if we had any sort of information at all regarding this in advance, that it was still being evaluated.
We did, and let me turn to Joe Cantamesa. Rick, if you'll hang on for just a moment. It was reported 3 weeks ago by the editor of an Arab newspaper that Osama bin Laden planned this kind of an attack. Very soon, he said it would be an unprecedented attack. Over to Lester Holt. Lester?
Right, Greg, we are getting an idea of what air traffic controllers may have seen this morning. The first indication something was happening. We are going to show you with Flight Explorer. That's American Flight 11, Boston to L.A., going up upstate New York, and suddenly makes a sharp turn, 180-degree heading right toward New York City. That's probably at least a 30-minute flight there that controllers know this plane is not only slightly off course, way off course. This again from Flight Explorer. As that plane was being tracked, there it makes that sharp turn way off course on a beeline to New York City, where it slammed into one of the World Trade Center towers today.
Good Samaritan. Look at this, look at this. Foot scrubbers. Yeah.
That plane was scheduled to leave about 7:45 from Boston this morning. It's not clear if that's the one you're seeing there. Remember, two airplanes hit separate towers, and we're not clear of the order yet. But this is something I pointed out earlier, that there was indications a good time before these attacks that something horrible was happening. What would an air controller do in a case like this? Not a lot. You could be making radio call after radio call to the plane. When you decide he's not listening or ignoring, all you can do is get on the horn to other planes, clear out of the way. We don't know where this guy's going. Clearly, he was dropping in altitude as well as he's making this approach. This was a plane that would have then come straight into the Newark International Airspace, LaGuardia, JFK, all in that area. So clearly other planes had to have been aware that there was a rogue airplane in the sky. American Airlines only given us a brief statement saying it lost two airplanes. We don't know the nature of any conversations that took place between the crew, between the air traffic controllers. They also have their own private data links between the cockpit and the airline headquarters when they have a mechanical problem. An airplane can squawk, what's called squawk, a certain code on its transponder. That lights up at the air traffic control center. It's a code that says I'm being hijacked. There's no voice communications, but if the pilot can somehow surreptitiously punch in that code, it would alert someone to at least know this plane is in trouble.
We got this call.
one flight. What's his face is called? No, the judge?
It's now about 12:30. That's the hole in the sky where the World Trade Center used to stand.
Where you guys heading? Right, hold up. Hello. Where do you want us?
Crossed over the wires, a Navy public affairs spokesperson telling a Washington network affiliate television station that there are dead inside the Pentagon. One of these hijacked planes came crashing down what appears to be a glancing blow on the Pentagon. In fact, NBC's Jay Barbary spoke to a friend who works in the Pentagon who believed that the pilot appeared to make a deliberate nosedive into the pad area, the helipad area, in a way to avoid the heart of the Pentagon, and perhaps it could have been a heroic act by the pilot. From this friend of Jay Barbary's vantage point, the damage done to the Pentagon came really from the plane's debris, so not a direct hit, perhaps a last-minute effort by a pilot under incredible duress to save as many lives as possible.
David, I want to go to a graphic that our viewers just saw on our air, and let's try to coordinate this while you talk. You can explain what we're seeing. This is from the website Flight Tracker, which every commercial aircraft, every jet aircraft has a transponder, which is then traced by Global Positioning System. This is the American Airlines flight out of Boston. And David, what are we watching here?
Right. This is something I sent over to you. Flight Explorer, which developed this out in Virginia, sent this over to me. They reconstructed this. This is the flight track of American Airlines flight number 11 as it came out of Boston and was heading on its route to Los Angeles. You'll see 4 lines there. The top line is the airline number, American Airlines flight number 11. The next line, the left number, is the altitude at which the aircraft is at. The right number in that second line is the airspeed. The third line shows the originating point, Boston, and its scheduled destination point, Los Angeles. The last line shows the aircraft type, in this case a Boeing 767-200, and the proposed arrival time in Los Angeles in Eastern Time, at that point 1:49. As we track the airplane out of Boston, it seems to be making a normal departure out of the Boston area. I know your screen shows beyond this at this point. When it gets back to Boston, let's start again. It's coming out of Boston, turns west, going through western Massachusetts, going into upstate New York above Albany, and it makes a very hard left turn there. Now, the folks at Flight Tracker have indicated to me that that plane made that turn at 8:28 a.m., according to the data that they received from the FAA. The flight coordinates, Brian, were 42.8 north, 74.15 west. Now, what's also quite interesting in this tracking is you'll see that when the airplane did come out of Boston and start heading out west, it was climbing through 29,000 feet, apparently on its way to a higher altitude.
On that classic northern route, by the way, David, that would have taken it across the continent.
Right, and up over Chicago, perhaps,
right,
and down into Los Angeles. Great circle route, Brian.
Right.
What we start to notice, and I've had a chance to be able to look at this for some time, Brian, it was at a steady cruising speed of about 457 knots. Just before, or apparently around the time of the hijacking, the speed gets very erratic. It goes to 427 knots, drops about 100 knots down to 340 knots. Maybe that's when they were getting control of the airplane. Back up to 470 knots, up to 495 knots, up over 500 knots, 493, 441, 407, 396, 390 knots, and then finally on the last readout, 313 knots. This is quite a dramatic picture, and you know, Brian, that we would have not seen any kind of tracking like this coming out of an NTSB investigation for months and months and months.
That's right, and that's the advantage here. It's ghoulish, but we get to see what happened, and I don't know if people can appreciate how severe a turn that is on an aircraft that big, and to go from 456 to 340 in terms of speed while turning. It must have been an emergency, and of course now we know. David, we'll return to this topic in 1 second. Hold there with me.
Okay.
This brings us back to David Stempler. David, 4 people, and perhaps more than that, got on 4 commercial flights this morning, diverted them, killed themselves and everyone on board. What does that mean to you? Have we lost David Stempler?
Brian?
Yes, David.
Yes. I don't know how we can assess this at this point, and I'll tell you why. What we have and the kind of domestic airline security that we have is really set up to manage a hijacking situation using metal-type weapons, whether it's guns or knives. I talked with a security colleague this morning. What could have happened is you could have put 10, 15, 20 people on this airplane. They could have overpowered any amount of people without any guns or any weapons. But I would assume that what has happened here is that these were not the pilots, the American or United Airlines pilots. I believe that those pilots were taken out somehow.
Right.
And placed in the seats were these terrorist pilots who actually focused on these buildings. So I don't know how you deal with that kind of threat assessment at this point.
Airport outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. An earlier report that an aircraft had crashed into Camp David has now been put down. This is a picture of the wreckage near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We also cannot forget that the most crushing human drama is taking place at this hour in the city of New York.
Somebody on that side of the overpass. Get 10-4. What side of the overpass? North side?
It's been theorized that because of just how these planes acted today, that it would have taken more, even than someone with a gun to the head of the pilot, to make a commercial airline pilot aim for and blow through, for starters, one of the 2 towers of the Twin Towers in New York, that they had to be overpowered and replaced, and that adds yet another dimension to what we're covering here today, that these hijackers were perhaps, some would say, were likely trained commercial airline pilots, and flying aircraft the size we're talking about today is not a skill possessed by every person walking around the face of the earth. Paul Begala is with us today, and for all the wrong reasons. Paul, what did you see? Where were you?
Brian, I was on the Boundary Channel Drive, which, as you know, runs northeast of the Pentagon along the Potomac River, alongside one of the parking lots. And I was looking over at the building and thinking about those counterterrorism folks who were going to be meeting there in the tank as I was driving to a meeting on Capitol Hill. And as I looked at the building, I didn't see any aircraft, but I saw an enormous fireball, red and orange fireball that shot at least twice the height of the building into the air. That was then followed, of course, by huge plumes of thick black smoke. 2 other men were driving alongside me, and they pulled over as I did. One of them, they were on their cell phones immediately. One of them said he thought maybe it was a chopper. And I do know there's a helipad there. I've landed on it. And I hoped against hope that it was just an accident, not an attack. Another man who was beside me was on a phone. He looked for all the world to be a trim young fighter pilot. He said, no, we're under attack. We're going to war. And he sped off into the parking lot.
Mayor Giuliani is with us at the moment. Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
I can, Peter.
Mr. Mayor, I saw you several times on the street today, and it looked like you were deeply sharing the horror that all of us feel. But I'd really appreciate, aside from, on top of your sentiments about all this, give us some sense of what's going on.
What is going on now is a massive rescue effort. We have thousands of police officers and firefighters in Lower Manhattan trying to rescue as many people as we possibly can. There are still a lot of people there that are injured, hurt, dazed, and we're trying to get them out, and we're mobilizing all of our fire, police, and emergency resources to do that. The governor has alerted the National Guard, and they're being deployed to come and relieve us early to later this afternoon. And the urban search and rescue teams are coming here from around the country to also assist us. But until then, which means until probably 2, 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon, our police department, our fire department, and our emergency people are being stretched to the limit, and I'm sure we've also lost a significant number of them. And we were in a building in which we were trapped for about 10, 15 minutes.
Are you talking about did you go immediately to the Office of Emergency Management?
No, I went down to the scene, and we set up headquarters at 75 Barclay Street, which was right there with the police commissioner, the fire commissioner, the head of emergency management. And we were operating out of there when we were told that the World Trade Center was going to collapse. And it did collapse before we could actually get out of the building. So we were trapped in the building for 10, 15 minutes and finally found an exit and got out, walked north, and took a lot of people with us.
My question is, the Office of Emergency Management headquarters, into which you put enormous effort for coordination in a disaster like this, has it been damaged? Is it
yes.
still operating? It's gone?
It's been damaged. I don't know how badly. And right now, that whole area of Manhattan, including the police department, which is another area we would operate from, City Hall, is another area we would operate from, have been closed off. So we've moved to a secure location in Midtown Manhattan where we're operating city government.
A terrible, terrible tragedy has befallen my nation, but has befallen all the nations of this region, all the nations of the world, and befallen all those who believe in democracy. Once again, we see terrorism, we see terrorists, people who don't believe in democracy, people who believe that with the destruction of buildings, with the murder of people, they can somehow achieve a political purpose. They can destroy buildings, they can kill people, and we will be saddened by this tragedy, but they will never be allowed to kill the spirit of democracy. They cannot destroy our society. They cannot destroy our belief in the democratic way.
Sense of what you thought at the time about all this?
I thought that I would never live to see anything like this. I didn't think anything like this was possible. When I first arrived there, I rushed down there from Midtown Manhattan, and I saw the first building that had been crashed open. And when you look at it, it takes you a minute to really comprehend that this is actually happening. And to see people jumping from the top of the World Trade Center. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a nightmare that's worse than this.
Mr. Mayor, one last question. You said you never believed you'd live to see anything like this, and yet in the past you've been one of the leaders in preparing for just this
Absolutely.
Kind of thing to happen.
Yeah, but you keep you prepare for the worst, but you don't believe that it'll happen, and this is the worst. And I can only say that I thank God for the police department and the fire department that we have, because this would be much, much worse.
Obviously. We're joined also in the studio this morning, or this afternoon rather, by Bill Heitman, who was in one of the towers when this happened. And Bill, after hearing Jim Hoffer and seeing him running from the scene there as the building collapsed, I was wondering, as you were trying to get out, you were in the darkened stairwell for an hour, did it ever cross your mind that the building might collapse?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, there was good spirit in the stairwell. I mean, I can honestly say we were having some laughs. You know, we were just getting down, making the best of it. Some people had to. It was more urgent for them to get down, so we would all call out, "Move to the right," and they would proceed down. But there was no panic, and there was generally, considering the circumstances, good spirit in the stairwell.
Again, as you said earlier, it didn't seem to be as bad as the other explosion, the first explosion.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So no clue, and no panic as you were going down.
No panic. The thought of the building collapsing or being in any more danger never crossed my mind.
And then, Bill, you said it wasn't... Sorry?
Jim, I'm sorry to interrupt because I want to just point out in this live picture here, what you're looking at is damage to an adjoining building. Obviously, the impact of this, not just to those twin towers, but also to adjoining buildings. And it looks like there is still, obviously, smoke, and I think I saw some flames there as well, Jim. So clearly there is still damage. And
they're all bunched up so closely together down there, obviously, and there was bound to be collateral damage in the neighboring businesses.
Absolutely. Bill, as you were going down that darkened stairwell and you say you had no thought that the building might collapse, was that because you had faith in the integrity of the building or simply because you did not know what was going on?
I had no idea the magnitude of the crash above us. We didn't know that we didn't know anything had happened over in 2. We thought it was just us in 1. And as the further we got down, you figure you're 90 floors away from the worst of it. I figured when we came out into the concourse level of the building that everything would appear to be relatively normal. But when we got down into the concourse level, which is very much like a shopping mall, it was just flooded. It was and emergency personnel were very, very urgently trying to get us out of the building, and
So were people milling around down there trying to check on others in the building?
No,
or were they
as soon as you came out of the
out?
stairwell, there was great urgency. Just personnel, just go that way, get out, and everybody was just walking through water.
Sir, can I ask you to stand by for just a moment?
So much smoke. We want to go now to a firefighter who was on the scene and hear what he has to say.
I saw people originally coming out the window, and I was, at that time I was quite upset about it, that I thought we should get in there. But then the explosion on the South World Trade happened, and I said, this is something we have to do, we have to back out. We backed out over here, and even then, that's when I was caught again in the second explosion.
As possible. You're looking at a live picture from Newscopter 7 right now, and of course you can see that there is fire in adjacent buildings. There is problems, serious problems still in that area down in Lower Manhattan.
Yeah, I went up to the elevator, the 24th floor. As soon as we get up there, the elevator get out. I got power. We lost power in the elevator. Thank God we kept one of the truck guys there, and he forced the door, and then we worked our way down the stairs. As we came down the stairs, we were just dragging people along with us, and then when we came outside, it just blew, the tower blew, and I found the mask on the floor as I was crawling.
Do you know anything about the cause of the explosions that brought the 2 buildings down yet? Was it caused by the planes or by something else?
We believe that it was caused by the after effects of the planes hitting the buildings. We don't know of an additional explosion after that.
Mr. Barrett, could you tell us, do you expect any further attacks on New York? Is there anything to indicate that there could be more bombs, more planes out there? I know originally there was
a report that 8 planes had been hijacked, 4 have only been accounted for. What about the remaining 4? And is there any possibility that there could be bombs on the ground planted by some...
We have no specific information to that effect.
Do we know anything about the composition of that dust that blankets lower Manhattan? Is there any asbestos or any hazardous material in that dust?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Mr. Mayor, there were reports of a gas explosion related to this. Is that you were aware of that? There was a gas leak or possible explosion?
We don't believe it. We don't believe that's the case.
Mr. Mayor, can you tell us anything about where the planes come from, where the aircraft came from?
Bill Diamond reminds me that we've turned off the gas in the city buildings, just to be certain.
Can you?
Somebody got a stuck mic. Somebody got a stuck mic. Really,
And now we join Paddy O'Connell again in New York with the latest news of what's happening there. Paddy.
I think, David, what's becoming clear is that this is not over. That is to say, if you look at the pictures of Manhattan, downtown where it happened, the mayor has evacuated part of Lower Manhattan. That will be no surprise. But if you think back a step as to why, it's because buildings remain unstable. This is the scene around the building that collapsed, but the question being asked is what about the buildings that were standing immediately after it? Now, I don't, where I'm sitting in Midtown Manhattan, have an answer to that question, but I'm afraid this question is the one that's preoccupying us, because underneath the rubble is the answer to the question, how many people have lost their lives? We know there are displaced people. We know there are disgusted people all across this country, and here there are people trying to get home. But as I speak to you, David, we don't know the answer to the question of the scale of the human tragedy. The analysis, important as it is, will be had, but the figures on people, we just don't know.
What sort of flow of information is there? You say nothing is really known, but is everybody, is information still coming out from the World Trade Center down there?
We have an unconfirmed report of a building collapse. At times like this, you want to hear directly from the city authorities. I passed one of the major hospitals 4 hours ago. They were shouting for blood donations in the street. We have an unconfirmed report of a building collapse. At times like this, you want to hear directly from the city authorities.
We'll leave it there for the moment. We've got some news just coming in, actually, that the Salomon Brothers building in New York, right in the heart of Manhattan, has also collapsed. This does fit in with a warning from the British Foreign Office a couple of hours ago to British citizens that there is a real risk. Let me get the exact words. The British Foreign Office, the Foreign Department of the British government, said there was a strong risk of further atrocities in the United States. And it does seem as if there now is another one with the Salomon Brothers building collapsing. We've got no word yet on casualties. One assumes that the building would have been virtually deserted. Whether this latest collapse is going to influence the president, who we heard about a few moments ago, was expected to be heading from Nebraska back to Washington, we don't know.
Watch yourself, here it comes. Still fucking real. Stay here.
attacked right at the window here. Firefighter. Watch yourself, here he comes. Okay, let's go. No, go low to the corner. Follow me. Very difficult to breathe here, but look around. This must have been ground zero where this thing blew up. Car after car after car. Buses. Completely obliterated. Behind me, that gaping hole, that's where one of the two towers stood. It's not there. The fire investigation building. It's a surreal environment. It's almost impossible to describe. Again, except to make a war correlation. Whoever said somebody declared war on this, it certainly looks like it, doesn't it? Good. Stay off the side.
Ready? Whenever you're ready. 3, 2, 1. We are in an abandoned skyscraper, and quite frankly, I don't even know where I'm at. I see a sign outside that just gives me a reference of Barclay Street. As you can see all around here, the windows have been blown completely out. And as we take a walk towards the front of the building here, you want to take a look outside. If you have never been to war, like I have never been to war, then this is what it looks like.
We don't know what that building is. We don't know where this building is, but they're obviously on fire. Maybe there's a chance that they could collapse. I've been on this earth for 37 years. I've never been to a war, but I can only imagine that this is as close as I've ever come.
Now, more on the latest building collapse in New York. You might have heard a few moments ago I was talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing. And indeed it has. Apparently that's only a few hundred yards away from where the World Trade Center towers were. And it seems that this was not a result of a new attack. It was because the building had been weakened during this morning's attacks. We'll probably find out more now about that from our correspondent, Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy. There's almost a sense downtown in New York behind me, down by the World Trade Centers, of just an area completely closed off as the rescue workers try to do their job. But this isn't the first building that has suffered as a result. We know that part of the Marriott Hotel next to the World Trade Center also collapsed as a result of this huge amount of falling debris from 110 floors of the two twin towers of the World Trade Center. As you can see behind me, the Trade Center appears to be still burning. We see these huge clouds of smoke and ash, and we know that behind that there's an empty piece of what was a very familiar New York skyline, a symbol of the financial prosperity of this city, but completely disappeared.
Transmitter is off, right? He's frying his eggs up there right now. What's he doing up there? He's a fucking cowboy. He ran into that. He broke off the first one to stop. The whole car is on. But then the whole company. And okay, after 5 minutes, whoa, 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 whoa!
And then moments later, I saw that first tower collapse on itself. And that was
see anybody jumping from?
No, I didn't see that.
What's your name, sir?
Michael Alexander.
I'm with the Connecticut Post.
Oh, with the Connecticut Post?
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. What does a fire safety director do in a situation like this?
Actually, I'm responsible for evacuating a building if there's a serious emergency.
Did you evacuate the building?
Yeah, we did.
How many people was that?
Well, it was like early in the day. We made the decision to evacuate after the first tower fell.
How long did it take you to get people out?
Actually, people started on their own. They started to just kind of leave naturally. But regarding the exact time, I don't really remember what time we decided to quit.
It's closed. Let's go to Emma's room. Emma's room. Come on, Bridget. Emma's room, here. Come on. Let's go in Emma's room. Oh, come here. I got you. Daddy, sure.
Come on. Jim's still out there?
I'm right here.
Looks like 7 World Trade Center just collapsed. Look at this. Unbelievable.
Joining me is Jack Kelly. Now, he is a foreign correspondent, war correspondent, and just came back from Israel. He has some information about these attacks. Jack, what can you tell us happened first in New York?
Apparently what appears to happen was that at the same time 2 planes hit the building, that the FBI most likely thinks that there was a car or truck packed with explosives underneath the buildings, which also exploded at the same time and brought both of them down.
Now, that's the first time we're hearing that. So 2 planes and explosives that were in the building, is that correct?
That is the working theory at this point. That is still unconfirmed, but that is what the FBI is going on at this point.
Let's go to 1010 Wins reporter Eileen LaPalmer. Eileen?
All right, Ralph, I'm here on Hudson Street. As you've been hearing, that 7 World Trade Center just collapsed about 5 minutes ago. Suddenly we saw officers, tons and tons of, maybe 100 officers, police officers, running north, running along Hudson Street, telling people to move, get out of the way. Again, the smoke was billowing north, and people were running. I'm here with an emergency worker. He's a first-year NYU medical student. He was down there. He was trying to help people. His name is Daryl.
Yeah, so I was just standing there. We were watching the building, actually, because it was on fire. The bottom floors of the building were on fire, and we heard this sound that sounded like a clap of thunder. Turned around, we were shocked to see that the building was, it looked like there was a shock wave ripping through the building, and the windows all busted out, and it was horrifying. And then, about a second later, the bottom floor caves out, and the building followed after that, and we saw the building crash down all the way to the ground. We were in shock, and then the worst part about it, we saw the smoke and the plumes of smoke coming after us, and we had to run. We had to run north, actually, on that street, and we just ran north to escape from the smoke. And luckily, we weren't hurt, but it was certainly very, very scary. That was about it.
Okay, and Daryl and his friend, they are NYU medical students. They are going to go back and help with the emergency situation again. Eileen LaPalmer, 1010 Wins, live on Hudson Street.
Now, Jack, as these battleships are headed out, does this mean war?
Lawrence Eagleburger, the former Secretary of State, just told us that this is a declaration of war as far as he is concerned. He said this is the biggest attack against the U.S. since Pearl Harbor more than 60 years ago. Osama bin Laden appears to be the #1 suspect at this point, though nobody will go on the record and say this. Only Osama bin Laden has the sophistication to carry off a multiple coordinated attack. I've sat with his people, and they've said that this is something that they would like to do.
As recently as just a month and a half ago or so, isn't that correct, when you sat with Osama bin Laden's people?
In Dubai, and one of them at that point said that they were considering more attacks against the U.S. Also, what's interesting, 3 weeks ago, a U.S. official warned the Taliban through a third person was that should there be any more attacks, that the U.S. would respond militarily. At this point now, the Pentagon and CIA and the FBI have identified a possible 100 targets within Afghanistan to possibly strike back.
We are now preparing for war. Is that what I'm understanding?
That nobody will actually state that at this point, but there are always situations ready and battle plans ready just in case something were to happen. This has been warned for quite some time. It's just a matter of when it would take place, and it took place today.
There we can see what looks like the Salomon Brothers building, which is the third building, which is just about to collapse. And these pictures, they came in just a few moments ago. It's 47 stories high. The World Trade Center towers were 110 stories high. And this building appears to have been weakened by debris or perhaps parts of the plane from the initial crash. You can see the building go there. And you can also imagine the difficulties faced by the emergency services on the streets of Manhattan.
All right, Jeff Rawson, Lower Manhattan, has an update for us. Jeff.
And Roz, last time we spoke, there was a collapse, a building collapse. We understand now it was World Trade Center building number 7. We were being evacuated live on television, and we want to let you know, first of all, everyone in our crew is okay. Everyone in the area here is okay. You can look at our live truck. That's where we had to abandon it just down the street as we broadcast these live pictures. And beyond that, you can see the smoke billowing. Certainly there was smoke before because that building was on fire, but since the collapse, we could literally see the smoke, the dark cloud of smoke and dust coming down the corridor of buildings down Church Street toward us. At that very same moment, police started evacuating everybody, and this is where we all are right now. Evacuated back here to Duane Street at Church, and you can see all these people were about a block up with us, but when that building collapsed, you heard another tremble, kind of like this morning when those 2 planes went into it and then the subsequent building collapses. This sounded a lot like that, and then all of a sudden we looked over and we saw the smoke coming at us. Right now we can tell you that the paramedics, the fire officials, all emergency workers trying to do a head count, trying to figure out if everyone inside that building fighting that fire is okay. We will certainly bring that information to you as we get it. Live in Lower Manhattan, Jeff Rawson, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Jeff.
Al Jones just saw building number 7 go down at the World Trade Center. It's collapsed, Al?
Hey, you know, we've seen so much today with the collapse of number 1 and number 2. Folks standing here on the corner of Leonard Street and West Broadway. We were just sitting here watching all the smoke pouring up from number 7. Number 7 is the kind of reddish-brown building that's towards the north end of the complex. And although we really couldn't see much damage on it, there was smoke pouring out of it here for hours. And folks just kind of standing around, milling about it. And then I wasn't watching. I just could tell from the reaction of the crowd what had happened, because I'd heard it already before. The gasp, the screams, people immediately turning and starting to run, even though we're probably a dozen blocks from the center itself. People starting to run away from the scene, and I turned in time to see what looked like a skyscraper implosion. Looked like it had been done by a demolition crew. The whole thing just collapsing down on itself, and another big, huge plume of gray and white smoke shooting up into the air, and then more of the smoke billowing up the street here. So that's number 1, number 2, and now number 7 that have come down from this explosion, and folks just simply can't believe it.
Well, Al, I didn't realize because the other towers are so big, but number 7 is 47 stories. That was a huge building in its own right.
Right. It was the one that kind of was dwarfed by the other 2. It was kind of a reddish brown, and it more or less ran east and west. It was a long, thin building, but it had been damaged and it had been on fire for hours, and the smoke just seemed to intensify. But we really couldn't see a lot of damage from this angle, from the north side of the structures. That's why everybody was so surprised when all of a sudden it just fell.
Now, the other thing, too, I would presume, because it has been burning for some time, as you indicated, there was nobody inside, and we hope no danger to anybody when it went down.
Well, that's the thing, is that when number 2 went down, I don't think, and I know I'll put myself in that group, I never thought these things would fall down. I mean, we were watching them. You could see them burning. A lot of it was damaged. There was fire coming out of the top, but I just never for the life of me thought that these huge buildings that have been here so long would actually just fall. And that's what happened. They just crumble.
Well, as reporters, you kind of run to the scene, and that's what happened with some of the firefighters and police, too. They ran to the scene, and, of course, with devastating results.
And that's what the thing is, with all the triage that's been set up around that area and all the people that were being treated and all the emergency personnel that are close to it, you only hope that they were far enough back so that when this came down that they were all out of harm's way.
Because, as you suggested, we never thought they would go down.
No, the gasp from the crowd here was all you needed to know that this just shocked everybody again.
That is 1010 Wins reporter Al Jones with the news and giving us that description of World Trade Center building number 7 going down, a 47-story building. That, too, is gone.
We've just got some pictures in from New York of the latest building to collapse. That's the Salomon Brothers building. That's 47 stories tall. There you can see it going. So this happened, some 6 hours or so after the collapse of the World Trade Center. Presumably, it was so close to the World Trade Center that it had been weakened by the explosions and the collapse of those buildings. We were talking to our correspondent in New York a few moments ago, trying to find out what sort of casualties might be involved in the collapse of this building, but it's just in the realm of guesswork. Most people, it's assumed, had been evacuated from the building, and perhaps there'd only be a skeleton staff there. Presumably, they would recognize the risk of it collapsing in the wake of the World Trade Center.
Possibility that the fire was going to get worse. All of a sudden, a loud, incredibly loud explosion, and we have the video to show you. Now, what happened was the police started screaming, everyone started screaming. There was a very foul odor. We were covered in smoke, and everyone started running. I started running as well. My photographer, Bashe Warner, did not run, and he was there filming all of the clouds, filming the billowing smoke, and it was just an incredibly frightening scene. Hundreds of policemen running away from the scene, and just anyone that was in the area. Now, we did speak to many firefighters and policemen.
That building I was referring to that was on fire, I didn't know at the time what it was. I learned later, and also learned just how lucky myself and my photographer Terrence were. That was 7 World Trade Center. 30 minutes after I got out of there, it collapsed. 30-some stories. I have one other note that I just want to put by. This is probably the darkest day in the history of New York City, if not the history of the United States. But if you're looking for some inspiration, just 10 minutes ago, I wasn't too far from where the Tower Number 1 and Tower Number 2 went down, and I saw a car completely covered with soot. And on that car, somebody wrote, "This won't stop New York." So if you're looking for inspiration, hang your hat on that.
What have you heard, if anything, about biological entities? There had been that issue raised earlier that perhaps anthrax and the like might have been part of this attack today. What have you heard?
Well, certainly there's a lot of concern of that around here. I haven't heard anything concrete where there is definite, I won't even say speculation, definite feeling, if you will, that they believe that some sort of biological terrorism has been used. There's all kinds of speculation as to what has happened here. Was the plane loaded with explosives? Was the plane enough in and of itself to crash in the building to bring those 2 towers down? Because you'll see the video, and you've seen it 100 times. It looked like it was a controlled implosion. It didn't fall over. It looked as if somebody put TNT all throughout that building. It pancaked from floor to floor to floor.
Yes.
So, of course, there's speculation here that maybe these planes were loaded with C4 explosives or some type of explosives on timers. That if the plane itself didn't bring it down, that charges would go off, and that eventually what happened would happen. But as far as biological attacks go, yes, it is a concern. How great of a concern, I don't think at this point.
And word late tonight that 2 suspects are in FBI custody after a truckload of explosives was discovered around the George Washington Bridge. That bridge links New York to New Jersey over the Hudson River. Whether the discovery of those explosives had anything to do with other events of the day is unclear, but the FBI has 2 suspects in hand, said the truck load of explosives, enough explosives were in the truck to do great damage to the George Washington Bridge. But they arrested the 2 suspects, and they're questioning them as we speak.
I gather has just heard of an incident in New Jersey.
The New York City Police Department has a report that the FBI is responding to New Jersey because a truck reportedly loaded with explosives has been stopped by authorities on the road there, and the men with that truck have been detained. Members of the Joint Terrorist Task Force, according to the New York police officials, are responding to question those people.
I asked him what happened. What was amazing about his story was that he was in the lobby of World Trade Center 1 when the first plane hit. And when the debris started coming down, he went back to go into the building to protect himself and was in the revolving doors going back in off West Street when he looked up and a fireball came flying out, I guess from the elevator shafts, that's what he seemed to believe, and blew out all the windows and threw him back onto the street.
There's an explosion. We're on the support floor, which is a basement. Guy came in running. All his skin was out of his body. Oh my God. All his skin was out of his body. We took him out. We ran out. We heard a lot of rumbling. I went back in. There was a lot of smoke.
Well, thank you. And again, our apologies to our viewers about 5 minutes ago, but we do have an established connection now with CNN's Deborah Fayrick. The reports we're getting now, 2 or 3 men arrested on the New Jersey Parkway. Deborah, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. That is the information that I'm getting from 2 sources, that there was a van either on the New Jersey Turnpike or the Garden State Parkway, and that it was near the George Washington Bridge. There were 2 or 3 men who were in the van. The van was pulled over. It is not clear why the van was pulled over, but when it was, law enforcers found tons of explosives inside of the van. That is right now all I'm hearing, but again, 2 to 3 people in custody, and we are trying to get more information on that right now.
Deborah, I don't mean to put you on the spot here. Do you know where on the Jersey Turnpike this was? How far from New York City?
We do not know that. We are looking into that. There is one report that it was on the New Jersey Turnpike. There is another report that it was very close to the bridge, if not on the bridge. So again, these details are all emerging, and we're trying to piece them together. But that's what we've got so far. 2 to 3 people in custody right now, found with a van filled with explosives.
All right, well understood.
The debris here is spread over a 3 to 4 mile radius, which has now been completely sealed off and is being treated, according to the FBI, as a crime scene. Governor Tom Ridge made some remarks earlier at a press conference. He had flown over the site. He said the emergency response here was immediate. He also said, and I don't know whether or not you all are able to see pictures of this, but this is one of those cases where the pictures really do tell the story, that sort of the most horrifying aspect of this particular crash scene is how little debris is visible. There is a large crater in the ground, and I'm hoping that you all are seeing it as I'm talking about it, but that's really all you see is a large crater in the ground and just tiny, tiny bits of debris. There's been at least one report that the investigators out there, and there are hundreds of them, as I said tonight, have found nothing larger than a phone book.
They were having coffee in the World Trade Center when the first plane struck.
And all of a sudden it sounded like, I don't know where the subway is, but it sounded like a subway collision, a bomb, and it was just pounding, boom, 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 and I literally thought the subway had exploded and all the cars put the land on top of it. It was so loud.
26th floor, and I was reviewing some work, and it was about 10 to 9, and the building shook. And I felt it was an earthquake, and it didn't bother me because I felt the building could sustain earthquakes. They were built for that. And then there was a huge explosion, and the ceiling fell.
He went through the front door of the ground floor, and the lady who was about 3 seconds in front of him was hit by a terrific fireball, and she was horrifically injured. So we went to her assistance. I think he got some sort of tablecloth to put over her. And as he was doing that, another explosion happened.
I was entering the building on the lobby level. I was in the revolving doors when the plane hit the building.
David Dre worked in number 1 World Trade Center.
One of the elevators, I think, came crashing to the lobby level, and all this debris came flying out of it. And a fireball emerged from the elevator lobby and was coming toward me.
We then were talking about the day's work and what needed to be done, when we heard a massive explosion that was in the World Trade Center at about 8:46 a.m. in the morning. The explosion came from, I believe, at first we believed that it came from the mechanical room. And then we heard a series of other explosions that sounded up on the above levels of the building, to where we then realized that there was something wrong and there was a major problem.
Rescue workers pushed people away from the scene.
We are walking back. There's a building about to blow up. On flame, debris coming down.
So everyone moved back, leaving debris and silence.
It'll be there.
Yeah, we want to take our viewers live to Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Our Brian Cabell is standing by. This, of course, is the site where United Airlines Flight 93 crashed on its way from Newark to San Francisco, crashed on Tuesday. And I understand in this investigation there's some breaking news. Brian, what can you tell us?
Well, Darren, in the last hour or so, the FBI and the state police here have confirmed that they have cordoned off a second area about 6 to 8 miles away from the crater here where this plane went down. This is apparently another debris site, which raises a number of questions. Why would debris from the plane, and they identified it specifically as being from this plane, why would debris be located 6 miles away? Could it have blown that far away? Seems highly unlikely. Almost all the debris found at this site is within 100 yards, 200 yards away. So it raises some questions. We don't want to over speculate, of course, but there were some cell phone callers, one cell phone caller in particular, who said he saw a bomb or something that looked like a bomb with one of the hijackers. Also, the man who took over the plane apparently announced that at one point there was a bomb on board the plane. So again, we don't want to speculate, we don't want to jump to conclusions, but what we do know is that there is a site about a half mile behind me where the plane went down, where most of the debris is, and then about 6 miles away up by a lake, there is another area that's been cordoned off, and state police and the FBI have said definitely there is debris from the plane located there. We have a crew on the way right now. We should have pictures of that a little bit later on. In the meantime, the search here goes on. 80 searchers going foot by foot, combing the area, looking for evidence. They have not yet found the black box. Darren?
Which was my first question, so I'll move on to my next one, Brian. We don't want to speculate about this large debris field, but it seems to me from covering a number of plane crashes on the scene that, if nothing else, you can say this is not typical for a plane crash to be spread across an area this large.
It certainly doesn't make sense because most of the debris has been found in a very compact area within 100 yards, 200 yards, maybe a little beyond that. And then all of a sudden they're telling us 6 miles away they have another concentration of debris. They say it's very small pieces. Most of these are very small pieces. Most of the pieces here are no bigger than the size of a briefcase, they say, and the pieces 6 miles away, maybe even smaller than that. They have talked to a number of individuals here. They say they have talked to people who saw this plane during the final moments. They haven't confirmed whether they talked to anybody who saw this plane actually land, or crash rather. And as to whether it broke up on the way, we don't know that. FBI is being very tight-lipped about that. But again, it leads to that possibility. It certainly leads to a number of questions.
You mentioned they have yet to find the black box. It would seem to me, when you compare the 4 plane crashes of Tuesday, this would be the site where they would be most likely to find a black box.
That's what they told us initially, and I think they're somewhat disappointed they haven't found it. It's been 48 hours, but they are still hopeful they will find it. There is a pond nearby this particular site. They may have to send divers into the pond. They haven't done that yet, but conceivably it could be in the pond. It could be anywhere. It could be at this other debris site. They've also found some other debris scattered around this area. They say, in fact, some individuals have been collecting it. Again, we're talking about very, very tiny parts. The biggest part they found at this site is an engine part, and most of the other pieces are probably no bigger than this particular notebook. So again, very small pieces. They had hoped to find the black box by now. They're still voicing optimism they will find it.
It's not an assignment I would wish on anybody, but I would say that you would have to have an assignment like that to appreciate what that looks like when a plane comes crashing into the ground and basically just drops out of the sky. Brian Cabell in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, thank you very much. Also, a note from yesterday when we were listening into an FBI news conference, they were saying they expect this search just at this site to take about 3 to 5 weeks. So they are going to be very deliberate and look for every possible piece of evidence. Brian, thank you very much.
In the B4 level, I was assigned to the B3 level, but I had to do something in the B4 sheet metal shop. So I went in the sheet metal shop, do what I had to do, and on my way, I heard a bomb. So I says, probably the transformer again blew up. So I stepped back, finished what I had to finish, and I started towards the door again. And there come a big blast with a big ball of fire. And that's when I got hit. It hit me right back down on the ground, and I realized that my ankle was shattered.
Pfeiffer was the first chief into the building. Right away, a guy from the Port Authority told him the damage was somewhere above the 78th floor. But all you had to do was look around. It was obvious. Something had happened right there in the lobby.
You just saw that all the windows were blown out.
We have a report now that a large plane crashed this morning
north of the Somerset County Airport, which is in western Pennsylvania, not too terribly far from Pittsburgh, about 80 miles or so.
I don't think there are enough words in the English language, or there are enough appropriate words to describe.
I thought it was a generator that blew up in the basement. And I said to myself, oh my God, I think it's a generator. And I was going to verbalize it. When I finished saying that in my mind, I hear boom right on top, pretty far away. So it was a difference between coming from the basement and coming from the top. And that's, everybody started screaming. And a person comes running into the office saying, explosion, explosion, explosion. He got his hand extended, and all the skin was pulled from his under his arm, all the way to the top of the fingertips, and he was hanging on both arms. Hanging and hanging. And then I looked at his face, and he was missing parts of his face. And I said, what happened? What happened? And he said, the elevators, the elevators.